Morning, everyone. This is Doug USMC, and welcome back to my home theater build. This episode, we're going to get a little more in depth into how we handle the lighting with the Lutron Radio Raw setup and the switches I have. More specifically, I've been focusing on iRule integration for the last couple days, as well as you can tell, throwing up some sheetrock. So forgive the mess. I'm actually hoping to get the rest of it up today, and then maybe we'll get some shots up with the sheetrock up. So to kind of rehash everything for everyone, the movie theater, as I set it up, is going to have 4 different lighting circuits. Again, from left to right, you have 3 dimmers and then a switch there. The first dimmer is what I call my soffit LEDs, and just for those who have been waiting for it, I actually threw up my gimbals. So if you look around the room in that soffit there, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 across the front. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 on the side, and there's another 3 behind me. If you look up here, you can actually see the gimbals a little bit. They're just basically eyeballs that you can turn in a direction. They're designed to splash acoustical paneling that'll be on the wall. So that is the first circuit. If I pan back, hopefully slow enough so that you all don't get sick. The second of those 3 dimmers right there is what I'm calling my splash LEDs. If you look up here at the crown again, my plan is to put a piece of, at the soffit. My plan is to put a piece of crown at the bottom of that, and behind it I will be hiding these LED strips, and they'll go around the entire room. They plan to splash the ceiling with that light, so it'll be indirect lighting only on the ceiling. You can see that there's 2 little strips hanging there. They're about 6 inches apiece. Those are just test strips. They'll come out when the final crown goes up, and I'll run all the way around the room. It's like 90 feet from where I'm at. Back to the controls there. So the third dimmer is similar to what we have for the crown, except it's for my step lighting. Basically a little bit of light to shine out of a grate down from the stairs to the riser. As I don't have my riser in yet, I actually just threw in a little bit of wiring there and another practice. So again, that's just a circuit with some strip on it. Although that is accurate. I plan to put about 6 inches of tape in each one. So the final one is a switch. Unlike the others, it is only a switch because the actual control for this one comes from a separate little receiver. So if we look, what that is some RGB strip lights. If you look around the room, you'll see them every so often. Those are designed to run behind the back of my acoustical panels to kind of give a little light shining out the side. Again, this is Radio Ra 2 from Lutron switching. In my server rack here, you can see that there's a main repeater unit. So that's where all the programming and everything happens. So now if we look back to the front of the room, you can see I got my little laptop up there as well as my iPad. I'll take a walk over there real quick. I will show you the Lutron software. So basically with these things here, you have to have, oh, good timing, laptop went to sleep. You have to have a Lutron account. Their software, if you look in the top right corner there, is called Lutron Ra 2 Essentials. It's basically what you use to configure. You can see on the left panel my main brain unit. You can see in the right panel the movie room set right there. You go in, you assign each of the controller units, you map them to something on the main unit. You go in, you can set dimming, you can set default, you can set configuration, everything. So basically, this is what I use to tell the main repeater, which is the brain again, hey, here's a control for you. And then I go into that control and I say, this is what I want you to do. So the other key that I can use for that is to create scenery. So, scenery equals scenes. So there are actually on that little representation of my movie room light switch panel, 4 switches. 3 dimmers and a switch. Please excuse me if I give wrong terminology. I basically said, hey, Ra 2 Essentials, I have 4 controllers that I need you to activate and do. Now, what that also allows me to do is create scenes. Most of the time when you take a look at Lutron equipment, you'll see like a single gang controller with like 6 or 8 buttons on it. Those buttons are what you generally assign to scenes. And those things are expensive. I mean, if you look at a 5 or 8 button controller, it's anywhere from $200 to $400. Now, that main repeater is about the same price, but what it does is it allows me to do the same thing pretty much. So if you look, you see Phantom button right there. I created 4 different scenes for the movie room that I'm going to show you all today. And it allows me to say, hey, for scene 1, use these 4 controllers and do these things to them. So let's take a look over at what my iRule looks like right now. And again, do not make fun of my pathetic iRule. My skills got rusty. But this is generally my layout. I have iRule controlled gateways in 4 rooms of the house. So this movie room button here, I just threw in real quick. And I just really just threw in 5 different buttons that would look similar to what I plan to have in my rack. Okay. You can tell I copy and pasted this page because it talks about a TV and a receiver. That's not so much accurate for the movie room, but that's what I have upstairs in my main unit. But this last bottom right button here is lighting. So I just created a lighting page, and down and dirty, not a whole lot yet, but you can see down across the bottom there are 4 controls for one for each of the controllers on the wall. From left to right, my OCD means they have to look the same as a control panel. Soffit LEDs, and again, those are the gimbals in the ceiling. Splash LEDs, those are what I plan to have all the way around the crown. Step LEDs, those are for the step lights. And then RGB LEDs. Again, those are the colors on either side of the panel. So each of those buttons, or they call them dimmer switches, actually, technically a Lutron logo. All it does is, if I hit any one of those, I can control them individually, and it'll work just like my finger is on the actual control switch. So, the reason I have this up on a ladder is, from here, you can kind of see all the different things, right? If you look straight in front of us there, you can see, especially, oh, it's going to keep going to sleep, it'll aggravate me. You can see, you know, above the server rack cutout, you can see one of those soffit LEDs shining down. On the left and right corners, you can see those splash LEDs. You can see that little bit of step LED in the center, and you can see the RGB color. So I have this here so I can show you, nothing up my sleeve, all these buttons actually work. So let's talk about it. So the first thing you can see is, if I were to go to any one of these controllers, like see that little step LED in the bottom there, forgive me while I try to navigate this. If I hit this dimmer here and I dim down, it's going to dim down that LED. If I put it back, it's just going to go back to where it is. So each of these controllers controls one of those lights just like normal. What I also did was I created 4 scenes. So I have a welcome scene, and that's what I want my room to look like as people walk in, right? Hey, it's a premiere, people are rolling in, and you can see. I don't really know the levels that I'm going to want yet. Again, no soffit, no crown, no paint. I don't know what this is really going to look like. But what I did was just kind of show you guys, if you look at those sliders for each of those buttons there, that's what I set it to. I said, we'll say the soffits are 3/4. So that's, those gimbals on the wall, right? I said, I want the splash LED across the ceiling to be about half. I want the step LEDs to be all the way up. And I want the RGBs to be on. So when I hit that button that says welcome, they just preset to that. It's a scene, just like any other scene you've ever seen. I also created a couple down the bottom that looked like they made sense to me, all on and all off. And they're pretty self-explanatory. This is going to kill me. Finally, I created a movie button because I figured I'll need a movie mode. What I also plan to do is, in the movie panel, if we go up here, hit my home button, that takes me to my movie room. If I hit Fios, I want one of the controls to say, go to movie mode. So if you're sitting in this room and you hit the Fios button, then it automatically goes to movie mode, which takes everything almost all the way down. So that button is a button in the sense of Lutron terminology, but it is also a link in the sense of iRule terminology. So once I created the button, it'll work with the Lutron stuff, and I can link it from any other iRule page, which is super cool. So movie mode I set up to basically take all the lights down, except take my step lights to like 25%. I could go lower with those, maybe 10 or something like that, but it was a default, quick and easy to do. So first off, to show you nothing up my sleeves, if we hit all off, right here, you'll see all my lights go. Oh, wrong button. You see all my lights go off. Bloop. Hey, look, everything works. Nothing on my sleeve. If I hit all on, this is designed, again, just to be, hey, it's cleaning mode, right? vacuuming in the room or something like that. Everything's all the way up. You can see pretty much all the levels are maxed. If I hit welcome mode again, you'll see all those different levels normalized. You saw splash LEDs dropped a little bit. So again, that's what I want to look like when people walk in. And if I hit movie mode, you'll see it pretty much takes everything down except leaves those little bit of floor lights. And it drops the levels on the sliders. They all interact. So let's go back to welcome. And you can see everything came back up. The last thing I want to talk about is these RGB LEDs. There's a couple of links on the page, a couple of quotes from folks. Waterboy was saying, hey, how are we going to do this? What about the RF controller? Well, I realized two things after going through my notes. First off is there is an RF controller. If you want to know it, let me know. But it's basically a separate hardware piece. And what I realized was I don't need it. So right now I got these set to purple. If I go pick up my controller, let's take a walk over to my workbench where, you know, obviously we all have this, right? Sawhorses, workbench, stuff like that. Not my tape measure. That would be the wife's. So this again is my RGB controller. If I'm using this controller, I can control multiple scenes. I can change the colors. Oops, let me put it on zone 1. I can change all the colors of stuff. I can go ahead and put it to blue. That's actually blue. It's not picking up well on the phone. I can go to red, which might be a blue mauve change. I can do all those things, right? Let's go over to green. So that's what my controller allows me to do. The RF controller was necessary for changing the color, changing the dim level and stuff like that. But for me, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, you know, have some pretty colors on the walls, right? I'm going to have a cool looking rug. I'm going to get furniture that's a certain color. So moral of the story is I will never change the color of those LEDs on the fly from my iRule, which is the only reason I would need that RF receiver and emitter. What I'll do is I'll set it to a color. I think we were like purplish when we walked in. I'll set it to something. I actually can't do that. That's just homage to Beast right there. I'm looking for a little bit of blue, right? That's probably going to be my color. I'll set that color. I'll set the dim level that I want. And that's it. I walk away. I can then use the iRule to hit on and off. So that's all I got with that. If anybody has questions on the RF, Waterboy, if you want the info that I did for the homework for the RF, hit me up on the post below this. Otherwise, I got to get this thing up and installed because Doug USMC was actually a Marine. And I have a whole pile of sheetrock there. And I did, in fact, call in the Marines, and about 4 of them will be here in like 2 hours to help me get this rock all up. Before then, I need to get to Home Depot and pick up that rental sheetrock lift. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. That being said, if anybody wants any more specifics, any more detail, hit me in the comments. I'm actually running upstairs to post this before I get out of here. Hopefully next time y'all see this, there's just nothing but sheetrock and love on the walls. Again, thanks to everybody for all the comments and posts. Thanks to everyone that has done their own pages that helped me learn a lot of this stuff. Have a good one. I'll talk to y'all later.